Well, on Clifford Street in Toowoomba at the moment, a new artistic addition to our city landscape in the form of a mural depicting the final Cobb & Co coach to do the final run from that iconic company anywhere in the country. Happened in our own backyard out west, as you know, Surat to Yulba back in 1924. But a mural depicting that last run has been added to the wall on the corner of Clifford and Margaret Streets. Just as interesting as the story of how the mural came to be is the story of the man who created the mural, local bespoke artisan Koster Stewart. And unlike many other murals around Toowoomba, this one was created off-site on a large number of different panels and then assembled like a jigsaw on the wall, which happened yesterday. I went up and caught up with Stewart Koster and started off by asking him what made him want to do it that way.
There are a couple of reasons, David. Simplicity for starters, because the better block wall here is sort of relatively rough, and for a mural that is relatively abstract you can get away with textured finish and mortar lines and things like that. But because this is commemorating the centenary of the last Cobb & Co coach, the coach needed to be realistic, and it was my aim to make it photographically thoroughly accurate. The original photograph that I got came out of the Roma Star newspaper, it might have been, and it was a microfilm copy, black and white, mostly black. You couldn't see much detail, but you could tell that it was the little 8-passenger coach, and you could tell it was an 8-horse team pulling it. And I spent a bit of time searching through, I've got all of the old Australasian Coach Builder and Wheelwright magazines at home on microfilm, and in 1918 it became the Coach and Motorbody Builder, and I've got them as well, and I started pouring through those, and in September 1924, lo and behold, there was another photograph of the same 8-horse team having left Surat, and the horses' heads were identical, their ears were identical, and the coach showed more detail, but it was still only a newspaper picture half the size of a postcard.
Right.
So there's no way you could enlarge it to be 15 metres wide and have it look acceptable. The coach was, I won't say it was a blob, but you couldn't make out the difference between the hub and the spokes, or the driver's seat and the back door, or anything like that. So I still needed to basically recreate the picture from this little half postcard size newspaper print thing to something that we could paint. And being Cobb & Co, the coach is what people think of, That's the next word that comes after Cobb & Co. So the coach had to be accurate. So I basically recreated the picture with a thoroughly detailed coach in place of the blobby one that was in the newspaper. And then the horses were a bit on the vague side, but I decided to make the offside leader's head sort of more realistic than the rest, and the collar. And then because it's not actually a photograph, it is a mural, there's an artistic element is allowed. So I figured, well, with the lead horse and the coach being totally detailed, we could go for a little bit of abstract and blandness in places, and a bit of arty colour. So what I tried to do was have the rest of the picture sort of, as you're moving away from the viewer, fade into a sort of a watercolour effect. And it was an early morning photograph, so the sun's shining off the second horse from the near side, the leader there. It was a grey horse, and the sun's shining off his shoulders and knees, and the sun's shining off the legs, the front of the legs of a few of the other horses too. So I tried to capture that, but other than that, no, the colours are a bit bluey and purpley because of it, it's a bit of an arty effect, and that horse was grey, and rather than making it a black grey, I made it a sort of a bluey grey, and then added a bit more life to it. That's permissible, and I figured, well, having the detail in one horse's head was enough, and the coach took me days and days and days to get right, but I made a point of making sure the spokes looked like spokes, the fellies and the tyres were distinguishable. A lot of mural artists would just paint something that looks like a bicycle wheel with straight spokes and a straight outside part, but I made a point of making the hubs look like hubs, not like tree stumps, and the wheel nuts and axle nuts are there, the brake bar and brake blocks and the bolts that hold it are there. I built a Cobb & Co coach 25 years ago.
So you know these design elements intimately, don't you?
And they had to be right, at least with me. One of the key things about painting murals is you don't want to get bogged down in detail, but when you're Stewart Koster, the detail is the beauty of it. So
you love detail.
It's important, in my opinion, in places. So and the coach had to be right. And
I guess it's a case of too that and I know that the majority of people who see it won't necessarily appreciate that detail. They'll appreciate the overall look of it and appreciate its beauty and its tribute to a magnificent chapter in our history. But there will be quite a few people who are coach enthusiasts who will spot the detail and appreciate it and acknowledge it.
To me, that's an important aspect, and makes it more special than just your typical mural that, say, someone else might have painted. I remember seeing a mural there a little while ago, and it was commissioned to go down in the Brisbane Valley, and they were putting a train on this side of this bridge. And the old B18 1/4 or 18 1/2 trains that came from Ipswich to Yarraman were plentiful, and there were lots of photographs of them. But these mural people picked an American, a Yankee jolly train with a cowcatcher on the front and the fat chimney, and to me it looked like it came out of a Disney cartoon. It was just so wrong. But when I said something to them, they got mortally offended and said that it's artistic license, no one will ever know. And I thought, that's not the way I work.
And dare I say it, I could be wrong, but I reckon there'd be more people who'd notice a fundamental difference like that in a train than perhaps even carriage aficionados. But you're right, bottom line is you want to get it right. It's got to be accurate.
Yes, it also makes the difference between people who will come along and have a quick glimpse and keep walking, as opposed to those who would come along, have a look and stop and take their time to actually ponder some of the detail and look for inaccuracies. Where did Ian go wrong? What I made a point of doing here in this is that the last coach was number 141, and it was an 8-passenger coach. So I've painted 141 where they were numbered below the footboard there, and it's got the George V's Royal Ensign, the GR5. That's accurate to the way they were in the 1920s. I tried to put the sign writing and even a little bit of shaded striping and some scroll work on the panels as well, because that's how they were done. You're not going to notice it from the other side of the street, but if you stand up a bit closer, it's there for you to appreciate if you want to.
Well done. I don't know how much this aspect excites you as an artist, but the fact that you've created something here now that by its nature it's a mural, presumably it's going to be on this wall for years and years and years, a long, long time. How does that make you feel as the artist who created it?
I don't really have a chance to think about it, David. I've painted it in automotive base coat paint, which is a urethane that's it's known for its lasting abilities and not fading, and it's got a 2-pack anti-graffiti clear coat over the top, so that if somebody tried to do something, it's repairable without too much ordeal. But yes, it's I've been around in the district doing this kind of not this kind of stuff, but I've been a local signwriter since the mid-1980s. And I'd like to think that our work lasts, and I'd like to think that this will outlast me. But facing west here in the setting sun, it's going to cop a lot of environmental variations. It should be up to it, in my opinion.
And as an artist, does this give you more pride than just creating a sign for a business, or are they equal because they both require you to dip into your skill and really use that skill?
I don't really know. At the moment, you can see this as a finished product. I see it as thousands of blobs that I've been painting over the last 6 to 8 weeks. At home I didn't have the room in the shed to be able to put it up like that, so I had to do, there are 21 panels. Yes. I had to do each panel one at a time, and as I worked along, I had to make sure that this one blended into the next one on the right of it, blended into the one above it, and blended into the one below it, and then just keep moving and make sure that they each mated up with their respective partners. And I had to have thorough faith in my original calculations to know that when it was all put together, things were going to not look too much like a sore thumb in terms of jarring joins. So far, I think it's worked.
I think so. Does that mean, though, you arrived here with a real sort of knot in your gut, like you weren't sure whether maybe they weren't going to gel as well as you thought?
No, I do have faith in myself.
But you've got to, don't you?
A week ago, I was... what's the word? No, I think I spent, there was a certain amount of time painting it, but there was a ton of time thinking. And, and when you're first setting it out, yes, I've got pages and pages and pages of notes as to what colour I used where. There are about 28 separate colours on this, not counting some of the fades. And so I've got a record of what was on the top corner, bottom corner, middle edge, left and right of each panel, so that I knew when I was doing the next one where to go. And in the shed at the moment, I've got more than twice as many cans, because I've got the fresh paint, and then I've got the thinned out paint so that I could airbrush it, and they're all basically numbered 1 to 24 plus mixture of 23 and 24 and a mixture of 22 and sky and things like that. You've got it's an 8-horse team, which was not common for Cobb and Co at all, but that's 32 legs. And when they're all not standing still but moving, they're all sort of sitting in a scissor-like fashion, and you've got lots of gaps of legs, background, dirt, grass, and as I was painting those, it was very much a case of scratch your head. What on earth is this? But you still have to. It was a matter of paint it and then stand back at 5 metres and see, does it look okay? Go back 10 metres at the other end of the shed. Does it look okay? Take a photograph with your phone. Sit down and have a cup of tea and have a look at it and see what looks right or wrong, and then come back and make some modifications. And so you're constantly looking at it from both a close-up microscopic perspective plus a far distant view, because to me it needs to work at both views of distance, or both fields of view.